The markets are continuing their decline as now the recession concerns are starting to affect markets, as we've been talking about in the last few weeks and probably last month or so. As I've said, the markets have priced in interest rate hikes and risk. They've priced in inflation risk. Now that inflation seems to be peaking or has peaked and plateauing, has not come down significantly, but still very high levels, but plateauing somewhat. The next step is to price in recession. Recession has not been priced in, so that's the big issue of the day that the markets are looking at. CEOs and banks. Dow finished down 1%, S&P down 1.44, NASDAQ down 2%. And the recession worries are what is jolting the markets. And fundamentally, we are seeing another round of major layoffs this week. That only increases the odds that we have a hard landing in 2023 and enter deeper recession than what was initially expected, said Adam Saran, CEO of Park Investments. JP Morgan Chase's Jamie Dimon came out today and said that the inflation would push the economy into a recession. And the CEOs that have been interviewed on Wall Street are all talking about the same kind of things in terms of recession fears. When you look out forward, those things that we derail, the things that may well derail the economy and cause this mild to hard recession that people are worried about. Said Jamie Dimon, he said I'm not going to call a recession. That's for the economists to do. But right now we're seeing a pretty strong consumer. So as we talked about, consumers are still continuing to spend. Earnings were decent for the last year, and we'll see how that ends up this year. And inflation is still high, and that is really affecting the lowest income earners the most. But some prices are coming down. Gas is coming down, lumber is coming down, commodities, copper, things like that. But as we all know, the things that are really important: housing, shelter, food, those types of things. Vehicles are still at pretty high levels. Even though that vehicles are starting to come down, housing is starting to come down, they're still at pretty high levels. So let's take a look at a couple of things on the market. Bitcoin still kind of ranging along here in this area between 16.7 and 17.4, really about a $400 or $500 range right there, and hanging on to that level right now as we go and take a look back at 2017, 2018. Kind of the same thing happened where you had a little bit of a range, probably a few percentage points, and then it kind of fizzled into really nothing before that final drop down. So is that what we're going to see here? That's kind of what all eyes are on. And then, as we've been talking about the last few weeks, the VIX finding support on that 19 level, reversing just like it did back here in August, and marching upwards. Once we get to that 30-35 level, then that would be a good buy point. But obviously, this has been a good selling range. When the VIX is down 1920s, has been a good range to sell this bear market, and then a good range to buy. The bear market's been in the mid 30s, right around 30 to 35. So I'm not saying that's guaranteed, but that's just what's been happening. The dollar has reversed, but it did that a couple of times before continuation down to a lower low, putting in lower highs, lower lows, reversing this trend. So is this going to be a reversal and marching back on again, or is the dollar finished? We'll have to wait and see how this works out. The 10-year actually a little bit down today. And what's interesting is if the economy goes into a recession next year and you get a hard recession, then you could potentially see stocks down, bonds down, and the dollar down. All of those could be falling across the board. Oil is continuing its descent. As we know, like I said, gas prices have come back a little bit and are dropping. You're probably seeing that, hopefully, potentially in your area. And then let's take a look at the Dow here. Same thing we saw back here in August. We appear to see a rolling over and reversal on the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, as they're going to go back and check these October, November lows. And while Bitcoin and Ethereum and the rest of the crypto market, if we look at total crypto market, that's with Ethereum, total 2, total 3, without Ethereum, without Bitcoin, continuing to hang on to this range here. One thing that I always like to look at if you want to say, well, is this going to just be another continuation like we've been seeing down to the next level, which is kind of what I'm expecting. And some people are saying we've bottomed here and double bottomed, and we're going to, continue on from here. But again, you still have the Fed hiking, you still have quantitative tightening. The Fed has not reversed. They haven't pivoted. They've indicated that they could possibly reduce the pace of rate hikes this month. But until we get the inflation report, we won't know if they're going to do 50 or 75. And if it's a tough inflation report, higher inflation, then 75 is definitely going to be in the cards. If it's a lower inflation, then 50 basis points is going to be in the cards. That could be a nice little trade either way, depending on what happens there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But one thing I always like to do that's kind of interesting to look at is when you invert this and look for continuation, and it looks like this is a consolidation before the next leg up for continuation. This is Bitcoin. This is the lower end of the range. These are the all-time highs, which double bottom all-time low, bouncing off of that, and just kind of continuing to level itself up each time. Consolidation, rise, consolidation, rise, consolidation, and then look for that next rise up and then into that range there, which puts it in that $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 range. So that is definitely in the realm of possibilities, probabilities, and likelihood. So we'll just have to kind of continue to watch this and see what happens as we move forward and get closer to the inflation report next week and the Fed's response to that report. So until then, these are the things that I'm looking at, and I'll see you in the next video.